Surely here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Mars hour, Jupiter day, and the ascendant is ruled by Venus, Venus 6 degrees Virgo, midheaven ruled by the moon, and Jupiter conjoining it in 21 degrees Cancer. The moon is in 9 degrees Scorpio, accentuating on this Mars square Pluto for the coming couple of days. And I want to talk about a very relevant topic, which is targeted individuals. So, why certain individuals are being targeted? And targeted individuals are basically people that um, the organized criminal authorities, and this is very important because it's authorities and wealth families that consolidate wealth by doing organized crime, basically crimes against humanity. Um, if you saw the Epstein ring, then that's similar. Um, Terror attacks and so on and so forth. So basically, the targeted individual is either believed to, by blood type, um, serve a certain goal that they would want working for them, um, or, and sometimes it's both, um, has made a significant contribution or began to tend to a topic that makes a significant contribution while not going with corruption. So think about the type of employees that when the workplace is corrupt, they suddenly get a sore throat, they suddenly begin to run to the bathroom, they suddenly become sick. Okay? So they're presented, I'm sure a lot of Gen Zers would relate. They're presented as that person that doesn't want to work, and it can be even in schools where there are indoctrinations, to fascism. Um, that can absolutely be, and because a child would get a challenge with what is being taught. Okay, think about. Um, okay, there can be many things. In Nazi ideology, it was quite obvious because people were taught that these people are ta 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 ta, but they weren't taught that anybody that violates your yes, no, and maybe, anybody that disrespects who you are, everybody that tries to traffic people, think that it is okay to trade people, that believes in slavery. Um, anybody like that is basically you're not. The children are not taught to critically think and see where do they see an ideology, or even at a workplace, that the well-being of the employees is compromised, or the well-being of the children at school is compromised. Okay, think about the Hamas Spartan. Okay, under the guise of Sparta having a perpetual war, where people are supposed to contend with the horrid reality of constant war. Um, that is not humanly possible, is basically to be superhuman soldiers. Okay, this is something that is a nuance. Now a child that listens to that and they're like, no, doesn't feel right to them. Okay, that child would be marked at school in a certain way, and in a workplace, the employee that says, no, we're not going to work in conditions that will not allow us to recover, to be creative, um, to have time with our families, or if people were born already into family that is dysfunctional, sometimes they believe the family is dysfunctional. But no, there is no dysfunctional family in a functioning society. And those that say I'm wrong, show me a functioning society today. Um, there is such a thing as a functioning family in a dysfunctional society, but even that is eroding with time. Even because of the naivete and innocence of people that don't identify that certain things that are really megalithic evil, okay, there's no other way to put them, are indeed also existing in society. And not only that, they're existing by the very authorities that were meant to instill a society that is livable. Particularly where people go to for the first emergency case. And this is where the things get interesting, because according to agendas and desires to recruit people, certain people would be met upon with assistance and genuine help that genuinely helps. I was on the, for me, I was on the end of both, and usually it can be one of two things. Either those people, they want them to be recruited, or they're supposed to be in the control group that normalizes and makes it unbelievable that the other group is being used in a certain other way. And so when a person is working and is not corrupt and becoming sick in a corrupt environment, they are already more susceptible to be what we call targeted individual. Um, Basically, the fear is that the person that is marked to be targeted individual, there is identification, hey, that person doesn't fit a corrupt environment. They don't fit a corrupt environment. They may be intelligent, they may be, and by the way, those that target the individuals, more cases than not, they are aware of the talents that a person has. In fact, they try to even do rituals to take a creative energy, or try to be like that person. Um, but the person that is just not able to be in corrupt environment is a lakmus test to society and is basically showing up. Why did the Nazis, um, but unfortunately now there are a lot of them in US as well, were sending the disabled, the neurodivergent, um, the even LGBTQ to death camps. And the reason is very simple. When we look at a disability, even neurodivergence, there is something there that is requiring for accommodation, requiring for rest, that is, and I've worked with people that had disability, um, and even I had a friend that had CP, for example, not at all work situation. Just the fact that at the same academic institution, the floors that for me were walkable and I didn't notice anything, for her, every other day she would fall. Every other day. Now, that would mean to reorchestrate an architecture that accommodates for life. And that is something that, with the rituals that are done on architecture and the design that would be enslaving people, and not considering their rights, this is already a problem. So a person like her already was marked to be attacked. Um, Now, when it comes to um, yes, neurodivergence, a lot of neurodivergent people, they, how should I say that, they don't respond to gaslighting. They don't respond. If you talk to them, they either sense a certain weird vibration and they react to you not really getting you, or they genuinely try to see between all the noise and sensory things that happen. If you say words, they respond to your words. I'm like that, and I remember that was a human trafficker actually in academia. And yes, there are trafficking rings in academia that I thought was just a neurodivergent person themselves. Um, that they were trying to normalize rape and trafficking under the guise. We had a dean that was attempt to traffic one of his employees, and she litigated him. In the beginning, she really trusted him, and when she was grieving her father, he tried to traffic her. So um, basically, the person was trying to normalize that, and I was either not responding or then responding in a contemplation because I felt I cannot speak with the person, some weird things are happening. So I began to write on Facebook of what my thoughts, my opinions, and so on, express myself on my page. This basically that person was trying to traffic me, and for me as a neurodivergent person, I just addressed the weird arguments. I began to really look at um, all these topics, sex positive sexuality and so on. Um, and basically what would happen is that my neurodivergent self began to unravel the truth. And a lot of targeted individuals are simply curious people. They're curious, they really ask the question. Um, they really expect answer. They don't accept every answer is given to them. If they're not satisfied with the situation, they don't just keep still. They're like, okay, let's see what's going on here. Let's say a person would be given a pill. Let's say a person has depression, would be given SSRIs. They look, they see, they say SSRIs, but it causes mania. Um, and they begin to see, well, there's these side effects. And then they're being gaslighted. It's not from the pill. And you say, okay, then let's remove the pill and see how we are without it. Then something else unravels. You say, oh, but I cannot help you. If you do not take this pill, maybe you can take other pill, but I cannot help you if you don't take this pill. You say, wait, we're talking about my mental well-being. We're talking about feeling like there is a reason for living. We're talking about faith in humanity. And now this unravels all the things that depression is sitting on. Now, with targeted individuals, basically, um, people that, let's say, do agree with corruption, when they get into the same crisis, like working crisis or homeless crisis or whatnot, or even heartbroken or whatnot, then they are being recruited. Okay, for example, in there are countries where in every workplace people have to, let's say if you have a business, You have to give information to the government. So government sees that, and then basically the person that is showing that they have a sovereignty and they do not take things at face value is being marked. Hey, that person no good for us. So then they cannot just unalive this person. They have to prepare an entire society to obey rules that don't make sense and to go to be in emergency case for and do the exact wrong thing. Think about the pandemic. Okay, when a person is sick, they need to go to nature and heal. Okay, to nature, to rest, to all the things that they told people not to do in COVID. Told people to close themselves and to keep working. And if they didn't take this or that particular way of treating a patient, which is, by the way, unmedical, the patient is the greatest part in treating a patient. And yes, I studied holistic medicine to be a holistic medicine practitioner, but also I did a thesis proposal and was targeted partly because of that before COVID about epistemic perspectives on the medicine and particularly the body-mind question, an essay on the politics of the senses regarding ESP and putting people through trauma to ESP. And that very naively was exposing things that I had no idea that people would do on purpose to people. So what I thought is that it seemed crazy that people wouldn't believe. But I didn't understand um, the things behind that go, by the way, all the way to the occult that the Nazis used, that was inspired by people like Aleister Crowley. Now, occult, of course, people can do. I saw women that are magicians, okay, occultists, and they connect with the feminine archetype according to the telema. So it doesn't mean that they are women Nazis, okay, just to make that one clear. Um, but the other aspects of the occult, like a personality cult, that were basically people of mind controlled, uh, um, okay, after being tortured, and that was a part of how the Holocaust happened. Okay, yes, it is. Now those things are so removed from the common day reality that even a person who is targeted, and I speak from experience here, who do not understand that they're targeted individual. Because it just doesn't make sense. Okay? Because all the things that are criminal to that level are basically destroying humanity. So it doesn't make sense that any human, let's say if you think about committing crime, you say, okay, if I am hungry and it risks my well-being to try to travel to the other side of the city, maybe there will be vouchers, maybe not. And as a return, I may not have food and I may be harassed in the way. So if I can steal from the supermarket something to eat, then it's normal. I risk my life less and I steal from the supermarket, not from people. Um, and if they don't accommodate for people to have food, then they have to take the losses as a business. They're a supermarket. They're not selling luxury products. Um, so this is rational, okay? But when people are grown in societies where every child that shows kindness is tortured to death, that eradicates that type of rational and creates a Nazi rational. It's not just a Nazi, but in modern society, I think the easiest example is Nazi rational. And the Nazi rational goes like this: must betray everyone. Those people that die, at least they don't suffer anymore after they die. They die horribly, but at least they don't suffer. And there can be, because of the excitatory state of the nervous system, which is basically a trauma, the nervous system begins to change. And when it's done to children, person develops addictions and becomes more susceptible to mind control, um, and can, in some cases, get addicted to commit atrocities because they remember what happened to the people that showed kindness and how terrible it was. And this is basically the perpetuation of evil. So this is how evil is manufactured and created by archaic slavery-like notions, and that would try to create division and control. So, for example, sexism is a part of that. Why? Because women are associated with yin, and yin is the rest that accommodates for action. Okay, in terms of a Chinese medicine. And think about the rest. If you will rest, for example, and you will get up to work, you will notice whether you get up to work happy or you feel enraged when you try to get up to work. When I was working for a credit card company and was not cooperating with the corruption, I felt very bad when I came back, woke up to work, and I went to see a holistic practitioner, and she told me I needed to be creating, I needed to be writing, and gave me the vitamins to take, yes, some acupuncture, and I had sore throat. So my colleague said to me, and I remember her until now, she said to me, "Your throat is sore, darling. It means that there is truth that you need to speak." So, um, so this is how I learned about the connection between the many ailments that I would get at work and corruption. And of course, that probably already placed me as targeted individual. Um, so for many targeted individuals, not only that they are not this person that doesn't want to work, in fact, they are people that are usually oriented by providing value to society. And this is why you see people like Heidi giving value, providing value to other targeted individuals. Because if you target an individual, what will they do? They will try to help others. Okay? Whereas those that target individuals have traumatic experiences, because when they try to help others and don't betray them, there usually would unfold a torturous situation. But you'd be surprised, and this is how even amongst the Nazis, there were people that suddenly helped people, or this is because as children they were grown to basically be psychopathic. But many of them actually, when they were encountering civil society, if they saw opportunity that they can help and get away with that, then many of them did help. Other people really believe they can, that the freedom is to be able to get away with murder and all kinds of horrid things, and to perpetuate the trauma, but only on others, not the ones that hurt them. In fact, their resistance to Nazi was basically perpetuating the evil back onto the evildoers. Um, and people that were ritually abused, usually, or trafficked, usually got out of that by perpetuating the evil onto those who perpetuated evil towards them. Okay, basically to defend themselves was considered not allowed. In mafia, for example, a person cannot even. I looked into at political assassination prevention. In the mafia, a person is not allowed to participate in preventing their own assassination. Okay, like it is that crazy. As politicians, they are allowed. Um, so, what is happening when person is targeted individual? Yes, they would try to paint the person in light that would seem not good with society, and this is where basically it begins to be a society problem. Targeted individuals are societies that are already showing a targeted individual can only happen in a society that is allowing that. Because in a society, let's say you have workplace and say that person is criminal, they were stealing. And you're told that by, let's say, a police officer. Then you say, okay, do you have a rehabilitation program that I can hire this person and provide them a job, because otherwise they will make bigger crime, and I would need support as a business to give this person chance. Then let's say you talk to the person says, no, I was not even aware that there is such accusation, yes, towards me. They say, did you steal anything? Well, when I was homeless, I stole food. But that's pretty much where it ends. Um, I come to work to not steal. It makes sense so that I will have money, and so on. Yes, otherwise, how will I get the things? Either by donations, okay. Some people manage to live only by donations. Or I will have to commit crime, so I come to look for a job where I don't have to commit crime. By the way, my entire resume in Israel, except for video editing, um, was in high school, was about me looking for a decent job where I don't have to commit crime. Because I didn't find, then I was trying to study, and then was targeted then because I began to do research. For example, when it came to the welfare state in Sweden, it was funded by the miners, because Sweden did not take slaves as miners, but it had to provide conditions for them. And I saw very clear that Sweden can build infrastructure outside of Malmo, but it chooses not to build that infrastructure and create ecosystemic cities or villages, increasing the housing demand, and they have money. But I saw that they basically choose to keep people struggling in Malmo with black market, so that they will ask to liberalize the markets, even though they don't actively add housing. So liberalizing the market will not assist without actually having more housing. It would not solve the black market problem, but it would rid Sweden of having to be a welfare state. And at the same time, yes, the welfare state was funded by miners, but it's not like Sweden is in a gross national debt of like the United States. So even if there's sometimes with less money there can be good solutions, but that can only be when people are not in perpetual trauma that causes them to become addicted. or even consumerists. So first of all, if you are for a society that has targeted individuals, it's basically society that allows it. It would mean that that business owner to begin with was stealing, and if the police say this person is a thief, they say, oh, da 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 da, and then would turn to this person and say, okay, I need you to do something for me. But what if that person doesn't do that something? Then they are resigned. Or they will have troubles at work until they leave work. And this is where they also try to traffic people, um, not because of sex, but because it's intelligence. It's used as intelligence. They do rituals on people who view porn. It's something that I didn't know, and it's normally on a person, if they would watch, let's say, a segment. Remember when I was studying filmmaking, there was a movie volunteered. There was a scene about a couple, and it was at a sex shop. So sex shop, you see all these things. Then I come home, and I see this really affecting the brain. In a way, I said it's not good for my sexuality, and then I didn't look at that because I felt that my sexual energy is kind of being turned down, and it's not something that's supposed to be arousing. It's supposed to be sensual. It's supposed to be life-giving, but it's not the energy that I got from that. Um, and you can imagine how fun it is, we're doing a film and this and that, and the scene is. But it was okay. It was like I did not find that too arousing. On the other hand, I found that there was like attempt to get. I found that there was attempt to get me addicted on that type of thing, and I said no. Now, for a person that has significant trauma and never even thought about, hey, sexuality has to be an embodied experience, that my pleasure is incredibly important, and so on. And if it's with another, then my pleasure and their pleasure, and so on. Sex positive, then they would be more susceptible to watch more and more of those things, and then they would harvest on their energy. Okay, so it's not about being sex positive and sensual pleasure that respects the sexual sovereignty, sexual energy, and so on, but things that are trauma and addiction based. And then when a person says, let's say, no to such relations, they're being portrayed as they're being too picky. Why are they single? And many people are single because they look for a healthy, safe relation. And if they need to learn, safe relational patterns, then they will do to basically learn that. All of those things is begin to paint a picture that is very correct. The people that actually are the most attuned and the most loving and the most loving, even within those Nazis community. By the way, the people attended to political assassination prevention. A lot of the people that are marked to be assassinated are the people that even within those Nazis have a little bit more of a heart, and they do beyond terrible things. Okay, beyond terrible things. Um, but when they don't cooperate with that level of corruption, they're basically marked to death. But if they try to help one another, there would be attempts to get them to hurt one another. So just understanding that, and understanding as a society that the more people accept the rules that are not reasonable, um, basically the more society is accepting of, how should I say that everything has to be normal. Okay, that everything that is a little bit off, that is a little bit different, is off, is already not normal. In fact, when I was in shelter, there was a lady that escaped in North Korea, and she was dancing and singing, and she said to me, escaping, um, basically when I began to dance and to sing, when I began to move my body, I received how to get out of the situation that I was in. And she was really impressed that I was also doing dancing movements, martial arts, and so on. But an informant that was next to me, and she tried to bribe me with favors, um, but and she could not sleep well. And basically, she said she was a nurse during COVID. A nurse during COVID would have enough shifts. It's a global pandemic. And basically, but she exposed the other informants and told them, I know you, you are a rat. And basically, she could not stand that North Korean girl that was dancing. She said, it's not normal. That was making her susceptible to be an informant. Because to have a freedom of expression and creativity is not normal. And so you see that what we think targeted individuals, and people say, oh, this is conspiracy, this is that. Now they don't say it anymore because really there are more targeted individuals than individuals. But yes, it was even exposed by police that some people, they take people in situations that they hurt people, and they pay them $12,000 to constantly harass or to stalk and so on, or to do witchcraft on someone. It's a terrible job. And it can only be done by people who have desire to attack the light. And most people, even when they try to target the individual, they are exposed very quickly to the truth, because sometimes they would be recruited and say, hey, bother this person, let's say, I don't know, is a pedophile. And they see the person, they see their lifestyle, they see what they do, and they say, this person doesn't do anything weird. Later, and by the time that they will find out that those who pay them the money are the actual pedophiles, and that they are trying to traffic this person, it will take them some time, because they would need to understand that the actual pedophiles were manufactured by a lot of torture, and they were manufactured to be in public positions in society. This is why the Epstein ring, people ask, what, everyone is in it? Yes, but how? What is it? Human resources? How do they even test to make sure a person is a pedophile? It's like only if a person is pedophile they can have all these public positions, or assisting pedophiles. And yes, in fact, I will not disclose, but there was a child scandal, and one of the things that there was attempt to check if I would cover up for that, and I said no. I would tackle, what I'm willing to do is to tackle the larger issue, that for this particular person, it would show that, hey, that person is being accused over something that really is everybody there is doing that, and we need to tend to that on a larger scale. Okay, so that would both reduce corruption, be ethical, and and also remediate the damage for the particular person in a way that is ethical. Not because everyone is in it is okay, but because there can be an open discussion about ritual abuse survivors, and the fact that those that are not survivors are simply the whether it's politicians or business people and so on and so forth. Um, yes, so this is something that also for those people that have a point of Thales, can have an opposition in the chart and a planet that is sextile and enshrining that opposition. Let's see if we have example right now. Pluto is a point of Thales between Saturn, Neptune, and Sun in 2 degrees Libra. Okay, so basically Pluto in 1 degree Aquarius, which is discussing, secret societies, targeted individuals, the beliefs behind, and so on and so forth. So understanding the science of how something happens is remediating the opposition with the Sun in a compromised diplomatic position in Libra, and Saturn and Neptune in Pisces and Aries, which is the fact that indeed now a lot of pedo rings are exposed because they want to basically, yes, thrash away the people that they have trained to commit, sometimes even war crimes on a mass scale. Every trafficking is mass scale, is every trafficking is mass scale, is true, but every trafficking of even one individual is a crime against humanity. This is important to understand. Okay, this is why people who escape trafficking are entitled to diplomatic immunity. I know that in practice, from Anneke Lucas, they are mistreated. Sometimes they are imprisoned, and they try to put those people instead of, like, the criminals in jail. But this is also pertaining to the jail system. And that begins my second topic. So let's say a person is a targeted individual. Basically, what they need to understand is that anything on the line of accepting the reality of the perpetrators is something they will have to clear from their belief system. Okay? For example, there are many people that want to prove that they can work and so on and so forth. They say, yeah, I can take any job. I can this, I can that. That's something the Jews said in work camps, and some of them survived, but most of them didn't. In fact, 6 million at least didn't. And usually when they talk about the numbers usually are not exaggerated, but usually to the other. You think about all the decades where people were killed, targeted, and so on before 1941. So that's way more than 6 million. It's just not registered because it's not written that that person was killed for that reason. Okay, the business owner that had to close the business because they put dogs and Jews, where that business owners were not doing usury, and perhaps that's why his usury doing Jews perhaps snitched on him to the Nazi regimes. They had to close their business and feed the family. If they didn't have the money to escape, or where would they escape? Sometimes United States, after the Second World War, Operation Paperclip, it recruited the Nazi scientists to the United States. It was not to persecute the Jews. It was to persecute those of the Jews that do not comply with usury. So now, because there are usually wars like in the mafia, if a mafia boss could put all the rest of the mafia bosses in a concentration camp, he would probably do that. And and this is how a lot of Jews that did do usury died also in concentration camps. But mostly, okay, mostly I saw even a community um, of Haredi Jews, and most of the people were absolutely not traffickers. Um, Not only that, went through ritual abuse themselves, and sometimes they don't even know that, particularly if they were, let's say, a person had a place where people celebrate their mitzvah and this and all the Jewish holidays, then that person had a speech impairment that told me that they were ritually abused. And the reason is that that person would be extorted and that they would be able to trust this person. Um, and so but they always were nice, always treated me nice, never trying to oppress anything. I was dressing very secular, and that was okay. But usually the entire community is living on vouchers or donations or charity, and the people that are heading the community are the ones that might be doing other business. And it's also making sense for them because they don't want over competition on the jobs that they do. Um, and but when the society is not acquainted of willing consent and so on and so forth, then it's a problem. But this is true also to many indigenous societies. Um, and so what we see is that many of the people living on vouchers so that they will do what? Not ask questions. They are paid to not ask questions. But it's not framed that way because for them, they have wealth for the families and they're told to bring children to populate the area. Now, if there are other tribes, let's say Arabs, and have large families too, so they say, okay, we'll have large families, they have large families, it balances each other. In fact, in one of the Bedouin uh, uh, villages, they were thinking to put Haredi Jews to make sure that this land is not occupied only by Muslims. Okay, and people can say it's racist and so on, but it's like, hey, that's another technique other than tribal wars, and okay, for fear and so that people will not be persecuted. Um, and this is basically, in a society that works in those ways, the business owner that, let's say, has a grocery shop and was marked as Jews and dogs had to close the business. Maybe they even had to commit suicide with the family. It's not registered as victim of the Nazi regime. 2008, there was exposure of Epstein ring. At the same time, coincidentally, a megalithic financial crisis, the subprime crisis. Absolutely nothing to do with Epstein. Entire families sometimes committed suicide. It means that the father would kill the mother, the children, and himself because they knew that they don't want children to be trafficked and they don't want to have crimes against humanity done against them. So that's what they did. It's not listed as a Holocaust, but that's a Holocaust that happens right now in the United States. There are even death concentration camps for homeless. On the other hand, in Nepal, there was demonstration of people. 72 people were killed. In 24 hours, there was no parliament. Parliament went on fire, consecrated to the gods. Then, are we as society are going to act more like the Nepali people, okay, towards corruption? But also it's important to understand that many things that people don't consider corrupt are corrupt. A person being single is not corrupt. A person waiting to see if there is sexual compatibility before marriage, not corrupt. A person having extramarital affair because they were people pleasing and it made them susceptible, or they came from dysfunctional family, people pleasing, and made them susceptible, or maybe they're non-monogam and they didn't know about it, and then they felt something that was pulling at the strings of their heart. Yes, not as corrupt as people would believe it to be. Actually, Esther Perel is a great talker about erotic intelligence. And in a society where there's no discussion on erotic intelligence and couples never take space from each other, never accommodate for the sensual desires, not as a must, but or understand that, let's say if a person that is recovering and another person might be intimately, yes, with other people at the time, but they think that to pay money to person for that person to be raped basically is okay. And in those societies it's very easy to say everything has to be normal, because when people are raped they have to act normal. And if a person is paying for someone to act normal when they are being raped, and that's basically where they see comfort, okay? It is not about judgment. It's about, hey, that prepares the ground, so when people are trafficked, it is already, yeah, but not all these are traffickers, but not all these are this, and not all these are that. Where was the yes, no, and maybe of the person? Yeah, but they needed money. How come a person have to be in a situation where they need to be raped for housing, or in such society, if tomorrow, let's say, the city is besieged and entire city is destroyed, like Dresden, it makes sense because entire society allowed. Because who are the people that are trafficked? The targeted individuals. And it makes sense for entire society to die when they allow for people to go through holocausts in times of peace. Not even consider that a crime against humanity. Such societies, of course, were more easily conquered by, at the time of Genghis Khan. He would besiege cities by seeing the corruption that is in that city. He would send people intelligence to see the corruption is in that city. And then it would be ethical to destroy that city. Now, a society that accepts that is accepting its own destruction. And by the way, the targeted individuals are used if they basically, the desire is for them to be a part of those world destroyers and get the bad credit. So this does pose a choice to society. Become aware, begin to stand your ground, stop. If a person is sick or find it difficult to work, they're not lazy. A normal person, even if a person, let's say, I heard of people, that person was just playing video games and so on and so forth. Yes. Have you tried to talk to that person about what the corruption that they've seen? Because for years, why don't they get a job? It's like, well, currently the Nazi regime is recruiting people. Do you want them to get a job? A person does not sit and play video games all day because they are lazy. It's because they are depressed, because they are trying to think about a way, because they don't know what to do, because they don't know how to talk to people about what they saw. And the people that the laziest thing is to accept that somebody is being lazy. They just don't want to work. Anybody that is even accepting that is doing one hand with the human traffickers. In fact, many people that are human traffickers and work with recruiting to human traffickers, they would say things like that because this is a part of the smear campaign. Because when a person is trafficked or when a person is brought to a situation where then nobody is going to believe them, or people who think, that person was a poor person, was made the bad decisions, not to cooperate with the credit scandal that would be about the equivalent of the subprime crisis that happened in 2008 on a global scale. It was the biggest bank. It was Israel just got the first out of banking credit, which would allow Israelis to get into American levels of debt without the bank approving that. And loan and loan and loan, not even being aware of. And this is what I refuse to do. I refuse to tell a person, here I am setting your monthly return to 400 shekels when they're, and the rest on a something like 13 to 15, even more percent interest. When they just do grocery store shoppings, but the food prices are going up. And then people are told to spend money on the credit to have credit score and have shoppings in 4,000. Now, if you think about a couple of millions of people doing that, that was what I was saying no to. And refused to do. My colleagues did not refuse to do that. 2 years later, subprime. The subprime was not only housing, it was also credit. And the company was Lomi Card of Lomi Bank. All the conversations are recorded. It would be recorded why I left. It should be. So those are the people that they try to basically keep them from contributing to society. Because what I did, okay, if I was being listened to, I was not even aware of that. From my perspective, I was just like, no, I'm not telling the person that. The motto of our company is Leumi Card Yoter Chacham, which says Leumi, smarter, and it's not the value of credit. I'm okay with people having credit as individuals. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I believe in cash, but This is not something I agree with, and this is not smarter. It's not teaching people to use finances and credit in a way that is smart and responsible.